Hi there, Michael here. Today's video will be a little bit different. I'm here with Gert Keunen, author of the outstanding book Stereo Was a Nice Try. If you do not have that book in your library yet, you definitely need to pick it up. I'm going to leave an Amazon link in the description below. The book has become something like an immersive audio Bible for me. It really covers everything you need to know about immersive audio production. Gert and I recently had a conversation where we specifically talked about Gert's book. And in that conversation, it became clear to me that Gert has some in-depth knowledge about a wide variety of immersive audio plugins that I felt would benefit the viewers of my channel. So today we want to talk a bit about one specific type of plugin, the immersive audio panning plugin. And the way we are going to do this is that we have selected a few plugins we will talk about, and at the end we will let you know what our favorite plugin is. Now, this is the first episode in a two-part series. In the second one, we will be talking about immersive upscaling plugins. Make sure to subscribe to stay notified when that episode is going to be released. And with that being said, let's talk immersive panning. Hi Gert, welcome back. Glad to have you back on my video stream or video or whatever. And just a quick note why we actually decided to meet and kind of do this video, and that is primarily because after the conversation that we had about your book, which is excellent by the way, I found out that you're actually testing a lot of plugins, and I usually have a bit of an issue with testing plugins in the sense that I make these videos, but I'm not really an engineer. I just play one on YouTube. And people sometimes want to know more about things that I am a little kind of hesitant to talk about because I'm looking at it more from a technical perspective and a usability perspective and an educational perspective. So I felt it makes sense to have you on board to talk a little bit more from the professional engineering side. Because I think this is going to be really interesting for our audience. Now, this is a two-part series. We decided to kind of make two episodes. The first one is about upmixers. The first one is about panners, and the second one is about upmixers. And the way we've decided to do that, we selected a few plugins. So for the panning plugins, we came down with actually it's 5, but there's sort of 2 plugins from the same developer. And we're going to go through them and just talk about them and then make a decision of essentially what is the best or what is the best choice for anybody out there. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about upmixers, where we're going to do the same. But before we get into the plugins themselves, let me ask you one question. One question that I get very, very frequently when it comes to panning, especially immersive panning, is that a lot of people get a little bit confused with binaural panning in the sense that there are all these panners out there that are essentially stereo panners, but add in a binaural effect, and then I'm not quite sure what the immersive panning is. So I was just wondering what your take is on that. Do you see a difference between those binaural panners that are essentially sophisticated stereo panners and the ones we are going to talk about, which are really panners that are positioning audio in three-dimensional space?
Yeah, well, binaural panner is especially made for having a good binaural experience. But when you are releasing music, the binaural version is not the ultimate version. It's one of the formats you're delivering in. So when I'm producing music, I'm just making one multi-channel immersive format, and I'm checking my mix in binaural just to see how will it translate when you're listening to headphone. But I will never do a mix only based on headphones, because I still need the speaker configuration, all the possible formats. So in fact, I only use panners like we will discuss today. And beside that, I have a binaural engine just to have a binaural rendering for monitoring during production.
Yeah, so kind of the way I usually explain it is that sort of the binaural panners, APL Duo Pen, for example, is one, right? So kind of where I take in stereo and then it makes sort of this binaural effect. To me, that is more of an effect, really, rather than kind of
there's no point in only making a binaural release. You can do it, of course, but you still need to also have a speaker version. So then it's better to just make one version of your tray.
So we're going to talk about the real stuff. So we have a couple. Do you have any preference? What do you want to start with?
Well, there are two panners which will redistribute the speakers, and there are two panners which are more creative effects. So maybe start with Spanner.
With Spanner, okay, that's an interesting one. So the cargo cult Spanner. Now, that is an interesting one because that was for a very, very long time a Pro Tools plugin only, right? So kind of they are really well known in the Pro Tools community. And I have a little bit of a story about that because when I already did a video about panners a while back, I'm not quite sure, I think it was 2 years ago. And I did not talk about Spanner because it was Pro Tools only, and my audience is mainly not really that much into Pro Tools. They're using other digital audio extensions, so I didn't mention Spanner. And more importantly, it's also really expensive, and they wouldn't give me a review license, so I just kind of did not talk about it, and they got a little bit upset with me. How could I talk about panners that and not include their own panner? Now, in all honesty, they just came out with a new version that now is VST3, and that works actually beautifully. Also in things like Nuendo or Cubase, and they also did something so that to make it actually workable in Reaper, which I found really interesting. So it understands which DAW it is in. So I now have to actually say it is a really good panner. So what's your opinion?
Well, I had exactly the same story. I asked the guy from Gert Keunen 2 years ago, why don't you make VST plugins? And he wasn't that interested. So it was like, yeah, it's made for Pro Tools, it's made for post-production. And maybe there's also something maybe to emphasize. Some of these plugins are very expensive, and the reason for it is because it started in post-production at cinema where there are bigger budgets, and in the beginning there were only a few plugins, so you could raise the price. But for a music producer, and especially in a home studio, some of those plugins are just too expensive, and that's difficult, especially when there are other plugins which are cheaper. So I'm happy that he finally, because Slapper is the other one that was already a VST3 plugin, which is a very, very good delay. And now finally there's also the VST version of Spanner. And on the one hand, it's a very flexible plugin in which you can just decide whatever you want to do with every channel. And that makes it very useful. If you just want to move the center channel of a multi-channel file, you can do it. So everything is separated. You can have all the possible movements. Of course, all the flying overs, because it was made for cinema in the first place. And that makes it very extraordinary. On the other hand, you also have a lot of you can do down mixes. It's not really an upmixer, but you also can change the channel width inside the plugin. It's made for all possible formats, channel based, but also ambisonics and our 3D, etc. And that makes it good. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of very interesting. I think there are quite a few plugin developers out there that were really tied to the Pro Tools community and the Pro Tools environment, and they are in this kind of professional kind of realm of people that don't really mind kind of spending a little bit more money if it really kind of is useful for them, because they essentially make money with these plugins, right? So yeah, I do agree with you. That's actually a really good one. It's now and the people at the Cargo Cult will probably be happy about it. It's now my favorite, and we're going to come back to that later. What your favorite one is, but it's one of my favorites now because it is. And honestly, they implemented it really well. So the transition to VST3 is really a good one. So it's. I'm still unhappy about the price. I think it is expensive, and most importantly, I'm not sure how you did that. In the past, for example, I did a lot of purchases via sales. Kind of they never put their plugins on sale, and if they do, it's like $10 off only.
Well,
So it's
I'm a bad example because I spend too much money on plugins. It's crazy, absolutely
yeah,
crazy. But one thing which is important for me is to have an educational discount because I'm also a professor at the conservatory. So if there is an educational discount, that will make me pull the trigger. If it's not, then I won't buy it.
yeah,
Um, so that's one thing, and yeah, sometimes it's and on the one hand, also in my book, I have a whole chapter on immersive plugins. So I do reviews of a lot of plugins. I put screenshots of the plugins. I'm not paid for it. I'm just doing it because of the love for the music. But at the end of the day, you can't buy all plugins, and
yeah,
that's the thing with when you do a plugin review. It's always done in isolation, and then it's, oh, it can do this and this and this and this and this. But if it ends up in your computer where there are more than 1,000 plugins, you've
yeah,
already got a lot of A/B decoders and etc. So then you don't need all those features anymore. So then it's more difficult to pay that kind of money because I already got something who can do it.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and kind of, people who are listening might think, yeah, well, then just do a test version or just use a test version. But for me, that it is always a bit of an issue because I quite frequently want to go back later and kind of compare with what I did previously. And, kind of trial versions usually have a limited time period that you can use them.
yeah.
So
Especially
this
when
sometimes
there's
is.
an iLock involved. When there's an iLock involved in the trial version, it stays on your system. Then you have to find the file to delete it because otherwise it's always scanning and no license found. It's really it's a thing.
Yeah, so this is actually a really nice one. Yeah, I fully agree. I fully agree. Now, what else do we have? And any you
Well,
kind of you yeah
in the same category as the 3DX.
yeah NovoNotes.
Yeah.
NovoNotes.
Yeah.
This was actually my favorite before I kind of migrated to to Spanner. It's a really good one. I think it was one of the first one that was sort of widely available and that had all the options that you would normally need, all the different channel layouts and everything. So what's your experience with that one?
Well, I just trialed it because that was the one I didn't bought myself, and I think it's a perfect plugin for rotating and adding movement to a multi-channel file. So if you have a good separation between all the speakers and you just want to have a small movement between them, then this can do a lot. But of course, it's you have to program it manually. So you have to use some controllers or some mouse to to change everything. But in the short experience I have with it, I think it's a good one. I don't need it for my own workflow. Um, for the reasons I already told you, you also can make ambisonics and all everything you can dream of. It's all formats, but at the end, yeah, we already have some plugins which can that can do a lot of different.
Yeah, so in the end, kind of a lot of those plugins are obviously replicating the functionality. Now, one of the things that NovoNotes is a Japanese developer, and one of the things that I found with Japanese developers in particular is that they are not particularly good in marketing their stuff. So it's actually quite interesting, especially for and that's probably a cultural thing, and kind of some viewers might comment on that. But when it comes to the Western market, I found that they quite often have an issue sort of positioning themselves in a very aggressive way. NovoNotes actually has a very interesting binaural algorithm in the back end that they are very proud of, and that I think rightly so, because it's actually really, really good. Now, one thing that I found with, and I know that it's not a plugin that you have a lot of experience with, but I use it actually frequently. And but one of the things that I found is that it is extremely resource intensive. So you actually need a quite beefy computer to do that. I'm not quite sure why that is. could be the interface. I don't think it's the algorithm, because they also have the algorithm in their own binaural rendering engine, and that you can actually purchase separately, and that actually works not as that doesn't need as many resources. So my experience is, though, if you are using that, or if you are thinking about that, make sure that you have a computer that can handle that. Because it's probably the most resource intensive plugins on our list.
Yeah, and maybe a plugin in between. We didn't discuss this before, but really a favorite of mine is the internal VST multi-panner of Nuendo.
Oh, yeah.
And why? And that has to do with resources. It's built in, it's right there on every track. And you see here, this is my SSL UF8. And with Mackie Control, you can control the multi-panner inside Nuendo. So all the movements, I can just do it turning a knob, and I can program it. So a lot of those features of 3DX and also of Spanner, I can do with the multi-panner. And that's also something, I think it's important also for home studio producers. It's always fancy to have a new plugin, but sometimes just look at the stock plugins and things you already have. And sometimes it's just working fine because it's integrated. And that's also important as a side note. It's not only external, so it's a total picture you have to...
Yeah, I do agree. But it depends, honestly, it depends a little bit on the digital audio workstation that you're using. So if you're using Cubase or Nuendo, right, so those are really, really, really good. But there are others, obviously, that don't have that. If you're working with Reaper, that's a different story.
Well,
and even things like...
Yeah, with Reaper, it's the most flexible of all. You can do everything you want, but you need a lot of external plugins. And also in the marketing of Spanner, they say it's a shortcoming of Pro Tools. It's their banner, so they made a new one which is better than the Pro Tools one. So it's depending on the DAW.
Pro Tools is also a bit, the penner is kind of not as nightmarish as, I don't know if you have any experience with Digital Performer. That penner is nightmarish. I hope to bring that, I'm not quite sure where Digital Performer is these days, but sort of I hope to bring that back, or kind of up to speed with current things, because that penner is unusable. But yeah, there are a couple of digital audio workstations that have actually really, really good penners, and in particular, the Cubase and Nuendo. So I will put them into one category.
And really, if you have you can control it via, for instance, the Avid Talk. It's a Yukon based, but the Mackie Control based controller, like these SSLs, and there are also others. You have just these knobs just to do all the movements. So that's really easy. It's on your track already. You just start twisting, turning the knobs, and you have your whole panning in any second, and that's important. And that's me as a creator and a composer and a producer. When I'm in the flow, it has to go fast.
Yeah. That is true. Yeah, and resources obviously are an issue. So NovoNotes, nice one, but kind of very resource intensive. So what else do we have?
Well, the inventors of immersive panning. And who are the real inventors of it? That's Sound Particles.
Yeah.
Company is made for it. It's they pre-panning immersive. It's like that's true. Yeah. Because it's such high quality plugins. This idea of dividing a sound into small particles, and you can move those around. They explored it into the extreme. On every possible way, with a delay, with panning, with their new panner is Beat Panner, which we will discuss, and I think that's the fourth one, because you have got Energy Panner that's reacting
quite a few,
on the level, brightness on the frequency. You've got the space controller. We can talk about it later. And then this Beat Panner is like a rhythm machine for panning, and that's different than the two previous ones. The two previous is like a general panning, changing the movement of the speakers. But with this Beat Panner, you have an internal sequencer. It's almost like if you want to make EDM music kind of thing. It's like really in a rhythmic movement. The sound is spreading around, and that's a very creative tool. It gives you new ideas. If you just put it on, you don't do it just to, I want to a movement from the back to the front. No, it's something like which can inspire you. And like always, the difficult thing with sound particles is that it has got a learning curve. So those plugins are not the easiest one. You really have to dig into it and see their YouTube videos, which are great, but you have to take this effort to getting to know them. But once you know it, then it's fine. But luckily, they have very good presets. And as a producer and composer, I'm not afraid of presets. I start from presets and, this is interesting, and then start triggling the knobs and make it my own. And those presets are really, really great. Yeah.
Yeah, so sound particles is an interesting one because, as you say, they are very innovative. I haven't yet had a chance to check out their latest sound particles kind of thing, the version 3, which I believe also has integration of artificial intelligence tools, if I'm remembering correctly. They have a lot of panners, right? So we kind of zoomed in on Beat Panner, which is the newest one, and then Space Controller, which is the classic one, which is the one where you actually use your phone to kind of point where the position of the sounds are supposed to be. And that is actually really really nice one. Exactly.
A word about Space Controller. Well, two things, if I'm allowed. First is, and again, it's the multi-panner of Nuendo, which is so great because the Space Controller is just integrated with the multi-panner. So when I am on a new track and I just use my phone, I can spread around all the sound, and that's so great without doing anything. Well, it's pre-programmed, but then I just put my thumb on my iPhone, and I can do these crazy movements. And the other thing is, I met the people from Sound Particles at a conference in Denmark last year, and the CEO was doing a showcase on their plugins. And he wanted to demonstrate the Space Controller, and without him knowing, I put my iPhone and I just took over. So I was in the room, and he was looking, what is happening? So this was a perfect promotion that it works. I really could. That was so great. Yeah.
That's funny. Do I remember that correctly? It's a Portuguese company, right? It's Portuguese. And one of the things which is really interesting is also they are one of the few companies that are rooted in academia. So that's actually somebody who does serious research in that area. So it's not just somebody who kind of takes in the algorithms that are out there and just implements them, but that's actually somebody who creates completely new and innovative stuff.
He's a PhD in audio technology or something, and that's so. And that's also important. The two previous plugins were €200 plus. This is €200 less, so less than. But even more important, they have a very good educational policy. Everything is 50% off for educators, and that it's so great. They have a whole bundle, and I think it's a few $100. For everything, just for everything they do, and that's so unbelievable. So we've got all those tools when you're an educator or a student.
It's actually one of those things that kind of sometimes really puzzles me, that not everybody is understanding, and that is that we are educators. We sort of know that when we teach our students to use a certain tool, it's very likely that the students are going to continue using that tool in the work. So it's actually the easiest way to market your products by just giving a discount to students in particular. Not necessarily teachers, but students in particular. And the fact that kind of some companies don't do that always puzzles me, because that's just such a cheap way to market your stuff.
It's a shame. Because, for instance, they also got this Skydust, which is an immersive synthesizer, which is absolutely great. You're in the middle of a synth. It's so absolutely absolutely great. And I demonstrate it for my students. I have an immersive course at the university, and one of the students bought the plugin, and his live performance was done with this plugin. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the instrument plugins have quite a learning curve, though. So I did some videos about Skydust and Grain Dust is the other one, right? Well, I didn't do a Grain Dust video yet. I kind of hold that off for some reason. But I remember that a lot of viewers didn't really get into the plugin because it actually requires you to really understand what's happening. So it's a little bit of a challenge to have these very innovative things and then kind of implement them in such a way that the regular audience understands what you're actually doing. Is this kind of your experience too, or is this just me and my audience?
Like all sound particles, it has a learning curve, and this Skydust and Grain Dust, it's difficult to synthesize because it's full of features. Every feature you can dream of, it's built in. But once again, they have very good presets, and that's important. You have a preset which demonstrates all the possibilities, and then you start exploring what are all those knobs doing without reading the manual, and then you get somewhere. That's most of the time how I work, because I have so much plugins, so much virtual instruments that I'm not always reading the manual. It has to speak for itself. And with sound particles, it's sometimes difficult, and you have to rewatch a video and read the manual to get all of it. Which I can understand. They put a lot of effort in it, so of course you have to also put some effort in using it.
Yeah, it's sort of when Skydust came out, I was extremely excited because I found that to be super interesting and super innovative. But a lot of people that watched my video didn't really get into it because it was too complicated for them. So essentially there's this...
Yeah, but it's very important because you can create immersive music right from the beginning. And I'm getting very specialized in working with virtual instruments in a multi-channel environment. And I have a lot of setups how you can make a stereo into immersive and with multi-outputs in Contact and Helion, etc. But the Skydust is giving you inspiration because when you press note on your keyboard, you're inside this instrument, and that makes you think about next steps. It's not that you compose something in a normal way and listen to stereo and then, we will make it immersive. No, it's because it's already immersed that you get new inspiration, and that is very important.
Yeah, you also pointed me to 9 Angles for Forte, which has sort of a very interesting Contact instrument, and I have had a conversation with Pablo the other day. I'm not quite sure in what order we're going to release the video. It's probably going to come out pretty much around the same time. But you're absolutely right. So kind of using instruments that are already immersive is certainly something that not enough people are really doing, right?
No, not at all. No, because I'm also talking to a lot of developers, asking how if they're interested, and I even want to help them in exploring things, because also in new routings, I just discovered a very nice thing in Contact when you can get at the backside. You can change the routing, so you have a multi-channel output, which is great. It's not meant that way, but it's very good results.
You need to show me that. That's an interesting trick. That's an interesting trick. By the way, since we are already kind of talking about instruments, have you ever tried Absinthe, the new version from Native Instruments? They kind of also talked about that is multi-channel capable, but I think it's only up to 5.1, right? It's
5.1 or 7.1. I'm not sure,
right.
But it's a surround instrument. And it's not the same functionality as Skydust, which is better in my opinion. But for Absinthe user, already got it for a couple of decades. It's very nice also to have this fully immersive.
I need to check that out. I was actually planning on doing a video, but I never got around to using that. It felt a little bit half baked the way they implemented that, right? So it's actually a shame that they didn't make it fully 3D and truly immersive.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of that that leaves us with the last one, and that on my list is Vertigo, right? I think that's a plugin that you like a lot, if I remember correctly, or am I
Yes.
incorrect in that observation?
No. I like it a lot. It's a new company. I'm in contact with the developer, which is a very nice guy. Which is I'm very sensitive to it. I'm sensitive for friendly people, and he's very open and open for suggestions. And the reason why I like this plugin is this is a plugin you can use without reading the manual.
Yes.
It's very intuitive. It's just like you put it on and there's some few knobs and you've got a result. And as a producer, that is very important. It's just on the go, on the fly. You can just insert it and just change it a little bit, and it's working without having to research a lot of things. And that's for me very important in a workflow. When you're just testing plugins separately, maybe others can be better. But in the workflow of creating and composing, plugins like these are very, very useful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of for me personally, it was almost a little bit too simplified, right? But I understand it's sort of a first attempt. There were certain things I would like to really be able to control that I couldn't, like for example, how the positions of left and right speaker are moving around the anchor point. But I agree with you. There's actually it's not the only company that popped up over the last couple of months that has this enormous speed in development. There's also Orbit Spatial, right? That South Loop Studios that are kind of hammering out updates left and right. Just yesterday I actually filmed the third video about Orbit Spatial in just kind of half a year because they are kind of coming up with these updates so quickly. I think a lot of that has to do is that some developers have really started to get into and kind of an automated development workflow with using AI tools, and are now really outperforming pretty much everybody else. And Maximus Audio is the other example where they're essentially, and these are not plugins that are kind of just thrown into the computer and something kind of is half baked and kind of it doesn't really kind of do what it's supposed to do. Those are actually really, really good plugins that have very innovative features, and they are developing them at a rapid speed that should ever put everybody traditionally who is working traditionally into shame.
Yeah, it absolutely has to do something with AI and that you've got a lot of help in making it. But just as an example, this Vertigo, why is it so intuitive? That's first you can choose a pattern in which the sound will move, and then you have an idea, also the speed you can adjust, but then you go to the effects step, and just on the fly, you can add a sequencer, you can add a modulator, you can add a filter, and then you get a really sound design thing on the fly without even knowing what you're doing. And that makes it very interesting.
Yeah. Absolutely. So it's a very beginner-friendly plugin because you don't have to think much about it. It's just the opposite of sound particles, right? It's sort of you just open it up and kind of play with it. That's straightforward. Well, I mean, there are probably a lot more plugins that we didn't talk about, but we felt that those are the ones that at least stood out to us. Now, my question to you is, I already kind of said to some extent that my current favorite is actually Spanner, and kind of the people at the Cargo Cult are currently kind of screaming, yay. But so sort of, what's your kind of take? What would you recommend?
Well, if you're working with Cubase or Nuendo, and you have this VST multi-panner, you've got such a good panner that you don't need another one to replace that. So when I'm looking for a plugin, I'm looking for something extra, so which can add a sound design, some movement, and then there are I've got two winners, and it's Sound Particles and Vertigo. Sound Particles just because it's absolutely brilliant, everything they do, and Vertigo because I've got a lot of sympathy, and it's the ease of use makes it very good. And then it's just because depending on the track I'm working on, will decide which one I use. And this Beat Banner really can give this electronic vibe to music. So, oh, then I need this one. But if I want to have very small movement, almost not noticeable, with a little bit filtering effects, then I use Vertigo. So it's really as on the creative side, having a toolbox. But that's something extra they offer. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. I never really tried that. Is any of those plugins capable of replacing the penner in Cubase and Nuendo? You know, kind of when you can select what penner you're using, and if the plugin is programmed correctly, it allows you actually to use it as a penner in Cubase and Nuendo. Is this something that these plugins can do?
Well, 3DX is integrated, all the audio brewers, Spanner is integrated, all the sound particles integrated, but Vertigo is not.
Vertigo is not, so I thought so kind of for the developers of Vertigo, that is the next challenge. Because that would make it even better, at least for the users of Cubase.
Yeah, but I never use that. I only use the multi-panner because that's so easy. I've got the knobs over here and it's so easy to program. It's just right on my fingertips, so I don't need something else, and I have this phone for the movement.
So well, very cool. I think you guys heard it here first. Essentially, if you have Cubase or Nuendo, just use the internal penner. That is already really good. And otherwise, it really depends a lot on what your preferences are, and kind of depending on your workflow, you might prefer one over the other. But there are a lot of good plugins out there. So thanks, Kat, for kind of being on that journey through penning plugins. That was really interesting.
The pleasure is mine. Absolutely.
Well, that's everything for today. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comment section below or join our free Discord server. The invite link is in the description. And let us know what you think about this format. We have a second episode scheduled in which we talk about immersive upmixing plugins, but we can definitely add more episodes if there is interest. And also consider picking up a copy of Gert's book, Stereo Was a Nice Try, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on all things Dolby Atmos and immersive audio. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.